Milena Batanova is part of a team at Harvard's Graduate School of Education that studies loneliness in relation to the pandemic. They recently authored a report, How the Pandemic Has Deepened an Epidemic of Loneliness and What We Can Do About It. Thank you so much, Milena, for joining us today. Alarming numbers of people are lonely as a result of the pandemic. In your research, you found that young adults are far more likely not only to be lonely, but to suffer anxiety and depression. Why?
Yeah, we found 61% of young adults 18 to 25 reported serious loneliness, so feeling it frequently or all of the time. I should clarify, we didn't actually ask them about their anxiety or depression levels, but in our report, we did cite links to anxiety and depression when it comes to loneliness. And I think, in large part, we've faced such unprecedented uncertainty and worry. Because of the pandemic. And I think, that can be significantly compounded for people on the brink of mental health challenges. And in our report, we also did cite that loneliness and depression are known to compound each other quite brutally, right? Where there's been lots of research to show that depression can breed loneliness, but also loneliness can breed depression.
And we also saw that there's an increase in the sense of loneliness due to the pandemic. So, we're a year in and people are feeling lonelier than they did a year ago. Explain this to me.
Yeah, I think so. We found an uptick of about 30% where people reported, comparing their levels of loneliness right before the pandemic and after. And I think in large part it might be this, terrible distancing, right? Like the actual physical distancing and social distancing, which turns into psychological distancing. And people really do feel apart. We did find that a good chunk of people, about over 30% of our lonely people, said that they didn't have anyone reach out to them. Yeah. In the past few weeks to see how they're really doing in a way that made them feel like they genuinely cared about them. And for young people, that was even higher. It was something like 50% of young people who were lonely saying no one reached out to them.
You also state that loneliness has, a high cost to it, and that is linked to early mortality and a wide array of serious physical and emotional problems. Tell us about this, the physical aspect of loneliness.
Yeah, in doing the research myself, I was shocked actually at the great, physical and cognitive risks that loneliness can carry. Apparently, there's research to show it can carry as great, if not greater, risks as heavy smoking and drinking. And that's really shocking, right? That's something we think, oh, it's psychological, it will pass, it's not that big of a deal. It really is. It's a burden that we carry with us. And I think morally, right, and like ethically, it's a huge cost to society. When we find that people are feeling so deeply neglected or, like I said, unheard or unvalued in some way. There's many different types of loneliness. But, in general, what it is this like huge gap between what people want to see in their relationships and their social lives and what they're not seeing. Yeah. So it's that gap that we really want to fill and try and close as much as we can.
Oh, thank you so much, Milena, for shining a light on this and making us aware of this. Thank you so much for your work. Again, Milena Batanova, Research and Evaluation Manager at Harvard Graduate School of Education.
Thanks for having me.